Episode 5 of Season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race. We started this episode out on a pretty big down note. Cornbread hurt her ankle and is done. Early on I thought that she was going to be a contender. At the start, she had that loving motherly presence in the room that I really appreciated. As the weeks went on, she got a little petty, especially in the Untucked, but still was one of the top queens this season, and very sad to see her go home on week 5. But that said, we still got an episode. We still got to send a queen home, and let's get into it. So this week, the challenge was do a PSA to advocate for the queens who went home first on their seasons. The team picking was hilarious. Georges, if you ever need some motivation for acting in the future, think of that moment, because you were hilarious trying to pop that balloon, but not so much so when it came to the actual acting. I don't know, maybe just picture that pit crew there in front of you. Maybe that will get you all fired up for your performance. So 3 queens who went home first on their seasons are back to be part of this challenge. And first off, I love this. I've always said that I don't like seeing people go home right at the start, because we just don't get a chance to see them. And for 3 queens, this was a chance for them to get back on the stage, get back in the spotlight, and show the world what they're all about. So each of these returning queens is going to lead one of the teams for the week. First off, we had Team Tempest du Jour, which ended up being Angeria, Carrie, Georges, and Deja. Team James Mansfield, which was comprised of Willow, Orion, Jasmine, and Maddie. And lastly, Team Kimora Hall, which was Lady Camden, Bosco, and Daya. First off, let's go back to Team Tempest du Jour. They definitely had some stumbles on the lines while they were doing the filming, but overall, they did pretty good. And when we got to the actual video, though, outside of Angeria, it was pretty meh. There wasn't a lot going on here for Carrie, Georges, and Daya. They just didn't hit Deja, in my opinion. And Georges was quite bad. Angeria, definitely the star of this group. Next group was Team James Mansfield, which was Willow, Orion, Jasmine, and Maddie. And every episode, I gotta say, I'm liking Willow more and more. I love hearing Willow's story, love seeing Willow perform, and always look forward to Willow on the runway. And this week was no exception. Willow was definitely the star of the group, in my opinion, with Maddie right there behind her. But Jasmine struggled, and Orion was even worse. Honestly, when it came down to judging, I felt bad for Willow and Maddie, because I thought one of them probably was going to end up in the top, but I feel like Jasmine and Orion were so bad that they kind of prevented that from happening. Lastly was Team Kimora Hall, which was Lady Camden, Bosco, and Daya. And I thought they just kind of the whole episode just felt like they were the safe group. That's not how it played out, but that's really how I felt. Lady Camden, to me, was the star of the group. I did really enjoy her. I enjoyed the runway as well. And she ends up being in the top along with Bosco, which I was very surprised with, because I didn't like Bosco in the acting challenge. I thought Bosco was just fine. And here we are, Bosco's not only in the top, but ends up winning the whole thing. Very surprised by that this week. The big shout out to Sarah McLachlan, because the cameo that she gave at the end was hilarious. I loved that. The runway. Georges was gorgeous. Carrie is not understanding what they mean, what the judges mean when they say get ugly. You know, it doesn't mean do your makeup poorly, Carrie. It means like open up, show more of yourself, like be willing to not always be perfect. You know, be willing to go for it. You get ugly, get dirty, get vulnerable, open up. Don't just do your makeup bad. Like, she's not getting it. Even going back to the Maxi Challenge, you know, Carrie's big idea of getting ugly, she put some glasses on. A lot of people do that so they look better, Carrie. Yeah. Deja, that was a bad runway. The awful runway. That was probably the worst runway of the night. I know Angeria got picked on a little bit for the ill-fitting top portion of her garment, but come on, Deja. That's just not. To me, it's not Drag Race caliber drag. That might be a little harsh, but that's honestly what I feel. And I'm really starting to dislike Deja more and more. I didn't like her at all in Untucked this week. You know, sitting there besides Orion and being like, oh, you just came out as a rabbit. And it's like, Deja, you did the same thing except worse. And you're gonna get on Orion for that. You know, look in the mirror, please, because yeah, not appreciated. And Deja seems like she's getting a little bit too full of herself, especially for how average to below average she has been this season. Maddie had the cool outfit. Definitely needs a lesson in walking the runway. I think I've had that comment before, and probably will have that comment again. Willow very much enjoyed her runway. You know, it was that little twist at the end with the help me on the back, which sold it for me. And that's something that Willow always likes to do, like have this cool look, but with one quirk. And I'm really enjoying that about Willow. Makes her unique in my book. Jasmine, also another standout on the runway. You know, maybe the accessories didn't quite do it, but the corset that she had made was outstanding. So the tops end up being Angeria, Lady Camden, and Bosco. And as I already said, Bosco wins. You know, the judges are excited by Bosco. I just haven't seen it yet. You know, I think Bosco is interesting, but for me, was not the best queen this week. And I think Angeria or Lady Camden were both better. Bottoms were Georges, Jasmine, and Orion. No complaints there. I think that they were probably three pretty clear bottoms this week. Orion and Georges end up headed to the lip sync, so Jasmine was safe, and Georges absolutely slayed. Like, it wasn't even that Orion was bad, well, until those shoes came off. But Orion was fine, doing okay, but Georges was dominant, absolutely obliterated Orion on that lip sync. So shockingly, Orion gets sent home. The shoes, come on, we've already seen it this season. The shoes come off, you go home. That is just like rule number one for lip syncing on RuPaul's Drag Race. Keep those shoes off. And on top of that, Orion's wig was barely on at the end there. If the song had another 30 seconds or Orion had to do another big move, I think that wig was coming completely off. I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but like as soon as Orion was eliminated, it almost seemed like there was a weight lifted off of her. You know, we got more expression and emotion in those moments after her elimination than I think we did all season. You know, she wasn't sad. She was just looked like someone who was just relieved. And that could have been something that was holding Orion back all season long. You know, she did have a decent run here, but really was just holding on for dear life all season long. All right, that's going to wrap things up for me tonight. Should have mentioned this at the start, but Drag Race UK versus the World has started. If you haven't got a chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. Some talent on there, some queens from countries I didn't even know had a RuPaul's Drag Race, and very interesting to watch. Even a little bit of Canadian content on there, which I always like to see. So that's going to be it for this week. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.